I think Americans hate inflation.
That certainly was
They hate
part
inflation,
of
they hate riots, and they hate black women.
They don't
and they hate trans people.
Oh, God, John, we're not
Dude,
going to...
they just spent hundreds.
Actor John Cryer was on Bill Maher's podcast, going off of his leftoid wacko views as one Hollywood actor is expected to, where even Bill Maher looks like he's the sane one in that conversation. And Matt Walsh is here to set John Cryer and everyone else who thinks like John Cryer straight. Let's see what Matt Walsh has to say, and I'll give my thoughts sporadically throughout the video.
Who is, of course, the former star of the sitcom Will and Grace, or may have been 2.5 Men. I didn't bother to check. But in any event, Cryer appeared on Bill Maher's podcast this week, where he offered his theory on why Donald Trump won. Watch.
I think the whole country, even unless you're like stupid woke, I hope you're not, but you know, it is Hollywood.
Somewhat stupidly woke.
Okay. The whole country was like, I mean, I think the biggest issue for the election, one of the biggest ones, was Democrats pointlessly, totally just punted on immigration and let anybody who wanted to walk in for 3.5 years did. And, you know.
Well, I think they would probably disagree. The people walking in probably felt like it was a little harder.
No, actually, there's a great 60 Minutes piece on it where the border, I mean, you don't get 8 million people here by making it difficult. But you see they're walking through and that border guys are just watching them do it. They're just watching them walk past. You never saw that?
I did not see that.
See, that doesn't get in the liberal media. That's the problem, is the bubbles we live in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had it right. Like, that kind of stuff is what lost the election for the Democrats. It's in all...
Maybe part of it. I don't know. I think a lot...
they have polling on it.
I think it's inflation. I think Americans hate inflation.
That certainly was
They hate
part
inflation, they hate riots, and they hate black women.
They
hate trans people.
Oh, God, John, we're not
Dude,
going to...
they just spent hundreds of millions of dollars
don't hate
demonizing trans people. And that's disgusting.
Yeah,
that
we shouldn't talk politics.
Okay, we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Great. We don't have to.
No.
Now, what makes this stupid is, well, everything about it, but let's narrow it down a bit. Cryer gets the first part of the answer right. He says Trump won because Americans hate inflation and riots. That simplifies and condenses the issue quite a bit, but it's basically correct. Americans were tired of our wrecked economy and our lawless cities. They wanted economic stability and law and order. But then Cryer throws in the claim that Americans also hate black women. So apparently his theory is that Americans correctly associated Kamala with economic decline and lawlessness, but would have still voted for her if not for the fact that she's black. We would have said, well, you know, we really hate inflation and crime, but she's white, so we'll take it. Never mind the fact that...
Oh my God, that's the first time I've seen the Bill Maher, John Cryer clip, but that was absolutely ridiculous. Bill Maher's had like a little streak lately where he's like interviewing these like old actors, and I mean both in age and also in their relevance. John Cryer hasn't been relevant in a long time. Neither has like William Shatner or freaking, what's her name? Jane Fonda. But look at that mindset. It's that strong, woke, deranged mindset that they're all suffering from. And I don't know if Bill Maher is doing it just to make himself look like he's sane. Because Bill Maher he's not innocent of all this stuff himself. I've talked about it on my channel. I've had videos on Bill Maher. He's like a lefty himself, but he's just not as psychotic as these people. So I wonder if that's his strategy there. Let's see what else Matt Walsh has to say.
Beat Hillary Clinton in the first run, who is, last I checked, not black. Now, of course, this is all part of the mythology that woke idiots like John Cryer subscribe to. It's a mythology that, as we know, claims that America is racist. And according to this mythology, black women in particular get the harshest treatment. Black women are reviled and persecuted more than anyone else, they say. Never mind the fact that, you know, Oprah is one of the wealthiest and most popular figures in the country. So is Beyonce. We were constantly told during the race that Michelle Obama's approval ratings were higher than any candidate or any potential candidate on either side. Now, I don't think any of those people should be popular, but because, not because they're black, but because they're all pretty awful in their own ways. But they do cause some problems for the America hates black women narrative. In fact, here's the funny thing. Nearly all of the people who claim that Kamala lost because she's sort of a black woman would also say that Michelle Obama would have crushed Trump, even though Michelle Obama is blacker than Kamala. Now, things took an even more ridiculous turn when the conversation moved to the trans issue. Listen.
you're asking too much often to rewrite like the idea that when someone is born, there is a default setting for humans, male and female. Not everyone is. Now, a real conservative would say, no, everyone is. I would never say that.
But
I think what a liberal says
there are chromosomal
is, yes,
spectrums.
there's a default.
There's
a default setting,
hermaphroditism.
but then there's a whole other other section, and that's great, and we should protect those people. But don't pretend there isn't also a default setting. And you can't rewrite the world so that every baby is just a jump ball. Oh, it could be anything. No, if it's got a dick, it's probably a boy. And if it's
Probably.
not, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that in a compassionate way.
Well, yeah,
but we'll also be apprised of the idea that children don't know about anything. Yes, sometimes it is obvious, and we should address it that way. But I mean, kids, almighty. I mean, the idea that I would, as a child, would have had to have dealt with something like this.
Well, again, the people that go through it don't say this is the life I want. No parent wants to be in the midst of those choices. It's
Some
terrifying.
kids these days actually just do want to be trans.
I
It's
don't
cooler,
agree.
John.
I don't
it's
agree.
a thing.
Nope.
Oh,
I don't agree.
come on.
I don't agree with Bill Maher.
I don't-
That's the name of the show tonight.
Well, your eyes are not open to that, I
Okay.
think.
Well, okay, you
there
can-
are some kids, especially, why is it like so much more prevalent, like here than Indiana?
Well,
are they suppressing it there? Maybe a little.
there's
But
a societal
but
suppression, but it's like left-handedism. Being left-handed was suppressed for for thousands of years amongst human beings. But once it was apparently in the 30s, scientists basically said there's no left-handedness doesn't actually do anything bad.
Right.
Left-handedness shot up. People just stopped training themselves to be right-handed. And this has happened societally before, and that's the closest analog that I can think of.
Now, there are many problems with this. To start with, Bill Maher is presenting the weakest possible case for team sanity here. He says that male or female are the default settings for most humans, but not all humans, which is, of course, incorrect. It's not most humans. Every human who exists on the planet, who has ever existed, will ever exist, either falls into the category of male or female. There are no other categories. Those are the only two.
If you're agreeing with Matt Walsh so far, give this video a like, subscribe to my channel. You'll be helping me out a lot. Let's continue.
Bill's given up far too much ground to the other side at the outset of this conversation. And any amount of ground given up is too much. Give them nothing because they deserve nothing, and their ideas have no merit and no value. So John Cryer takes the ball and runs with it, and he compares being trans to being left-handed and says that left-handedness was suppressed for thousands of years. And once the suppression stopped, left-handedness exploded. And he claims that it's a similar thing is happening with transgenderism. The explosion in trans identification is not because of social contagion, it's because the 1,000-year campaign of suppression has come to an end. One does not affirm one's hand preference by having the opposite hand amputated. Everyone would agree that we should not be making permanent life-altering changes to anyone's body, least of all a child's body, based on their dominant hand. So even if we bought his analogy, it would not lead us all the way to his conclusion. It wouldn't even get us halfway there. This is the problem for the proponents of gender ideology. Analogies are an extremely useful tool in making and explaining an argument. I use them all the time. But the gender ideology proponent is not able to make any analogies. Every analogy backfires. They cannot say.
Imagine comparing transing kids to whether you're left or right-handed or not. It's not the same thing because, as Matt Walsh correctly pointed out, people weren't chopping off the left hands of people. We weren't altering our bodies in order to conform to being right-handed or whatnot. I mean, in a lot of cases, it is trendier now. That's why you'll have people who aren't really gay or anything. They'll just say, well, I'm non-binary, or but you look at them and they don't look anything like non-binary. It's just some kind of or I'm gender fluid or something. And it's doesn't really mean anything, but they came up with this term because it's trendy, because they want to fit in with this new thing of being trans or being gay or LGBTQ community. They want to be part of the club, and that's a big reason why it shot up. And also, too, you have wacko parents, wacko leftoid parents, usually mothers, who are so wacko that they also want to be part of this club, and they use their children to be a part of this club. It's kind of a form of Munchausen syndrome. They want people to look at them as they're special, or they tell them that, oh my God, you're such a brave mother, blah, 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 blah. And they use their kids and they abuse their kids, and they make their kids think that they're trans when in reality they're not. I mean, look at the case of Megan Fox with her boys, and she's trying to raise them as girls, and I've heard reports that they don't want to be. But it's not even just with Megan Fox, it's with a bunch of mothers across the country that are doing this to their children. And that's why it's harmful, and that's why it's dangerous. And people like John Cryer need to realize that, but they don't, because as Bill Maher pointed out, the media doesn't tell them this stuff. But Matt Walsh does a great job here of explaining all of this. It's really not that hard to understand. It's just so amazing to me how people still feel this way. Even though Donald Trump is back in office and it seems like wokeism is kind of on its way out, we still have a lot of work to do to repair the sanity in this country. Good job on Matt Walsh. What did you think about what he's had to say? Sound off in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy content like this. Click that notification bell. And if you like Matt Walsh, I got more Matt Walsh videos on my channel and on the screen for you to click away and enjoy.